Hello, people. Good afternoon for me. I am sitting in my snuggly sweatshirt waiting for my laundry to get done on a rainy day. This is second day I've been back to the States since my trip to Africa. And the first day was just sitting around dazed and jet lagging and sitting with my family. Went to their house and just talked about the trip some and went to bed early and did nothing. Then I woke up and did a lot of nothing again and took the dogs for a walk. And so this afternoon I'm actually trying to be productive. I'm not on the schedule at all at the hospital. They can't even find record of me, so that's fun. But I'll figure that out tomorrow. I've called them and just waiting for a response. So a breakdown of the trip, if anyone's interested. So I left on I think it was the 4th, and it takes 24 hours to get there. Basically, I had like I think a 2-hour flight to Denver, and then from Denver I had almost a 3-hour flight to Chicago, and then I met up with the team and we flew out from Chicago to Brussels, which I thought was in England, but it's in Belgium. So I went to Belgium and then one more flight. So Chicago to Belgium was like 8 or 9 hours, and then another 7 or 8 hour flight from Belgium to Monrovia, the capital of Liberia. And so we got there, and it was late at night, and it was chaos. People trying to grab our bags, everybody trying to get a tip. And as they would grab the bags, we couldn't count how many we had because we had a lot of bags with medical supplies in it. So we just sat there for an hour and a half in complete chaos. And it was hard for me because I used to do this for a living. So watching this whole stumbly process and like warding off people getting to our bags, where I would have done everybody line up and everyone grab the bag, the bags that you brought. I'd have them numbered or number them, line them up. Look, we got 48 bags. Let's go. But none of those methods were used, so it took a long time. And then we loaded up and drove in the middle of the night to Phoebe, which is this little bitty town on the middle of, like, on the edge of bush, like straight up jungle. Deserty jungle, no, not like Amazon, like rainforest, but like thick. Anyway, so you're either in like thick greenery and trees there, or it's just dirt. Like there's not a lot of middle ground. Anywho, it's hot, and so we took I think it was like a 3-hour trip, 2.5, whatever, in the dark, and only about maybe 45 minutes of it was on paved road. The rest was, we were off-roading and bumping around, and for the most part I was on a jump seat, which is this, we had them in the Army, just flip down cushion square that you sit on that's like literally this big, and it's called a jump seat. So I was sitting on a jump seat, very little cushion, and nauseated, just hitting bumps, and it was awful. So we got there, it was like 3 a.m. and we settled in, and we did a walk around, and found roaches, and there's geckos inside the building and lizards on the outside screens, and it's hot and it's sticky, and there's no running water, and at the time no electricity, so you just have to get snuggled in the dark. And most of our team was smart enough, really, not to say somebody was stupid if they didn't, but most of us were prepared for no electricity. So people had flashlights and headlamps and stuff. So that was cool that everyone planned for that. So we all just quickly grabbed roommates, and I just won the lottery with mine. She was like laid back, easygoing. She reminded me of somebody that I used to serve in missions with, that you just couldn't shake her. You know, you get up in the middle of the night and stumble around, and she'd wake up and say, "Hey, do you need help?" Instead of, "I can't believe you just woke me up." Like, she just had the best attitude. So anyway, we didn't do anything the next day. We were just kind of settling in and figuring things out and learning how to flush the toilet with a bucket. Some people had never done that. And getting to know the guy that took care of our house and realizing we have security 24 hours a day on the outside of the building. What's funny, like, some of the people that hadn't traveled a lot at the end of the trip was frustrated. They're like, "We didn't need security. Nothing happened." And I'm just thinking, well, that's why nothing happened. We had security. But, you know, when a local, that's who set this up, when a local puts together security for a team and you are the only white people for, I don't know, 75, 100 miles, and even that, it's sporadic. Like, there's not a lot of travelers to the small little villages of Liberia. Unless you're on a missions trip, nobody's there doing anything. So we had security, so we got settled in and walked to the hospital. It was like a block away on a dirt road, and we were on the same grid as them. It was run by a generator, and so when most of the electricity was turned off on the hospital, we would get some electricity. So from like 7:30, 8:30, between those hours, electricity would kick on, and we'd have it till usually about midnight. Sometimes 1 a.m. if we were lucky, but usually midnight. So we would literally have everything in the house plugged in, ready to charge. So when the electricity kicked on, that's what would happen. So I had a scripture that the Lord gave me, I believe, in the beginning of the trip. 1 Corinthians, and I forget what scripture it is, but it's basically Paul saying, "Hey, I'm just coming with a simple, humble message to my brothers and sisters. And I'm just coming with a loving message, the message of Jesus Christ." And I just really felt like that was the message for me, that I was going to serve this team, not the people of Africa. So I didn't go with this major passion for Africa and the people. Like, Africa's never been on the radar for me in all of my travels. And I have gone in and out of countries repeatedly through the years. I've probably hopped nations about 50 times since I was 18. So I've done a lot of traversing in the world from country to country. And I've never, ever, ever landed in Africa, ever. Intentionally. I just had no desire to go. None at all. So anyway, we go to the hospital, and it's dank, it's hot, it's sticky. The people are desperate. They're just laying on these concrete benches with terrible ailments in there. There was a truck that flipped in December. It was full of diesel, and they had a hole in it, and they were trying to catch the fuel so they could sell it, because Phoebe is a very, very impoverished area. And so anyway, that area, it was actually, I think, Bongo, where the truck tipped over, but Phoebe's adjacent to it. It's close. So anyway, somebody hit the truck with a rock trying to open the actual faucet to the back of the truck to get more fuel out. Once the fuel level had gone down past the level of the hole that was punctured the truck where they were getting the fuel. So there's this puddle of fuel, and one of the local poor guys hit that handle with the rock, and a spark occurred, and it killed, I think it was like 40 to 70 people, and like 100 some odd people were burned. And most of the people were taken to Phoebe Hospital. It's a little bitty outpost hospital in the middle of nowhere. And so we didn't go there specifically for that, but they had nothing. They didn't even have, I'm not sure they had triple antibiotic. They didn't have aspirin or Tylenol or Benadryl. Nothing for pain. No morphine, no nothing. I'm not sure if they had that. I'm not sure if they had Tylenol. They might have had morphine for the surgical side of things. I'm not sure, but just really no supplies. And so we came there with, I would like to estimate, so their dollars, like 175 of their Liberian dollars to our $1. So like $100 there is like 53 cents. You can buy a Coke with it. And we had about, I would venture to say, $5 to $10 million worth of Liberian, medical supplies that we brought to them. Not even kidding. And so we didn't go for those burn victims, but they're walking around like just zombies. Not like there, but like they walk like zombies because they're burnt. Some of them head to toe. A lot of them from knee down. And they got one layer of thin gauze around their burns. Well, one layer, I can see the burn through it. It's not thick enough to even protect it from anything. And then without triple antibiotic or some kind of ointment, it's just melding to the wound, and then they're ripping it off. And the place is just covered in red dust, and the dirt alone there, you can actually get worms in your system through your feet from the dirt. So think about that for a minute. So it was devastating. I saw a little 3-year-old. He just sit out there with all of his limbs separated, just hold him out like this, and he was completely burned. I don't even know how he made it without getting an infection and dying. And he'd sit there with his limbs out, and he'd smile, and he'd go, and he'd wave to you when you walk by, and his dad would feed him while he's sitting there being a good boy, covered in burns. And so we started surgery like day 2, I think, maybe. And it was just pandemonium chaos. We were not on the same page, and you could tell the other team, that the surgical team that was there in place, some of the leadership, they were like kind of standoffish, and like, I don't know, it seemed like they wanted our help, but then they were mad that we were bringing technology, knowledge, and supplies that they didn't have. Kind of like, you're not superior to us. And I'm not saying we were, but like, I just think it's frustrating because like in America, and I've seen it, people from different countries can come, and if they have better knowledge than us, we will be like, we need to set up a conference. We need to gain your knowledge. We want to pull what you have so that we can make our hospital better. Like, I have seen that in play. So the attitude was not so good when we first came, but it smoothed out as we went. Praise the Lord. And we just started seeing people. Our goal was like 50. Well, there was a lot of miscommunication, so I think we did 120 surgeries. Their team did more numbers than us, but we also did more complicated surgeries. So like the goiter that grows from, a lot of times, from a lack of iodine in your diet. But one of the surgeons was saying it might be an issue that they eat so much cassava, and cassava has something that messes with your thyroid. So it might be their diet related besides iodine that makes this be a problem. But anyway, it can mess with your breathing and everything. So, and it's close to a lot of stuff. It's close to organs in your throat. It's close to arteries. So it's more of it's not like a slice and dice. You have to be a little more careful with what you're doing by your throat, obviously, instead of doing like a hernia repair. So we started just knocking them out. We just do, I don't even know how many, like, 4 to 13 surgeries a day. I mean, it really depended on the day, and if there's more hernia, then we could just one right after another real quick. But if it's a thyroid, we could only do so many. But anyway, so we started doing that, and it seemed like quickly, at first I wanted to get offended, but quickly I saw I was kind of the lowest on the totem pole when it comes to like knowledge base, and that's okay. I am a nurse, and there was a lot of nurses there that were supervisors and stuff and had worked in the OR, blase. So I was told I might be in the OR. I didn't get 10 feet from it, but I was in a job that nobody wanted. I noticed everyone got quiet and veered when this was handed out and needed to be done. Nobody wanted to step up and do it because it's hard, tedious work. It was in a room with no air conditioning, whereas there was a little bit of air conditioning in the OR. Kind of thankless. So your patients aren't awake and you're giving them gifts and they're thanking you and telling you how amazing you are. They're not thanking you after surgery because they're waking up and they don't know who you are and they're disoriented. So it's kind of a, not to be rude, but I'm just being honest, it's a very thankless job. So I was in a hot room and I prepped people for surgery. They didn't have an IV. I put one in. I started fluids so that it'd be running so that the anesthesiologist would be able to put medicine in there to put them to sleep. And so I look at the job and know that it had to be done. And I was like, I'm going to either complain about it or I'm just going to get in there and do it. Because I knew I was to serve, I felt like I was supposed to serve my team, not Africa. So since nobody wanted to do that job and it needed to be done, I didn't even ask to sit in on a procedure. I didn't ask to, and people did. They're like, I want to do this or that. I was like, no, it needs to be done. And I'm not saying I'm a saint. It's just I chose to do it. So day in, day out, I organized that room. It was an absolute cluster mess. Everywhere you looked, it was just piled crap, stuff that you couldn't use anymore, outdated junk, dirty stuff, everything. There was like the gurneys that I put the people on to bring them in and out of surgery. When I got there, they were crusted with like blood, dried blood down the legs and in between the cushions. And one of the wheelchairs I had, it had off-road bicycle tires. Like, it was just crap everywhere. It was just like worn down trash. And I just made the best of it. And I organized it, a little tray with all my IV supplies and one for hydration, for IV fluids and everything. And I just got it organized as much as I could. And I cleaned things off, and I just, by repetition and by also saying it, I was teaching the people that live there, every time you get a patient off this gurney, you have to wipe it off. It's covered in their blood. It's got blood on it and urine. You want to clean that off and disinfect it before you get the next patient on there. So, anyway, it was interesting getting to work with the people. They had a short way of speaking, like they don't use a lot of words. So I was telling my brother and sister-in-law, like if I told in the States, if I was working pre-op, post-op, I would say, hi, I'm going to go ahead and take you back. My name is Wendy. And I'm going to start an IV on you. And then I'm going to hang some hydration fluid for you, an IV. And then I'm going to take your vitals and, take your blood pressure and your temperature and all that. Make sure you're doing okay. Have you gone to the bathroom in the past hour? Okay, have you eaten? When's the last time you ate? And so that's how I would say all that. But they would be like, I don't understand. So I had to shorten everything and sound like them, or else they wouldn't get what I was saying. So I'd walk up and I'd say, hi, my name is Wendy. Place an IV, put water in it. Take your blood pressure, and then I'd take you to surgery. And that's exactly what I'd say. And then I would say, did you pee-pee? Did you drink today? No drink, no water, no food? Okay. And so you could not use a lot of words or else they get lost in it because it's just how they talk. So I learned how to do that, and that was fun. And I did that. I just woke up and did that every day. And then I complained about it because the electricity, I didn't know what time it was going to turn on. But at night, one of the doctors brought some delicious Starbucks coffee. And so I tried to make coffee for my team every morning. So we had a thermos. So I would wait for the electricity to come on. And I'd set the coffee pot up and put 3 bottles of water in it and the filter and coffee. And I'd turn it on and wait to listen for it to percolate. And I had to do 2 pots worth, put it in the thermos, and then all night long it would sit. And in the morning they'd have fresh coffee. And so I did that every night, and I would get so mad, and I would be like, fine, I'm going to bed. Somebody else do the coffee, because it would take forever. So anyway, so basically what I did the whole time was I served coffee, and I was a pre-op, post-op nurse. That's it. And yeah, there was a couple bumps in the road where everyone kept giving me orders. One person would come in and give me orders, somebody else would. And I was on a team with a lot of doctors. And so I just finally confronted them in a kind manner, and I was like, you just guys, you can't do that. I need one person to be the contact person for each patient. And so they did, and it fixed it. It became streamlined. I got a student nurse, and she didn't know how to do anything. She had to take a mechanical blood pressure. She didn't know how to put sterile gloves on because they didn't teach her. And so I got to kind of just feed into this woman as much as I could. And she got to watch pre-op and post-op and what that looks like. And so it was really awesome. And I would take the patients to the bed. After they woke up, they would talk. They'd breathe fine. Their oxygen was fine. I would take them to the bed. And then I'd transfer them over. And then I'd talk to the nurse at the nurse's station and be like, whatever, give them the orders. And and it was a hard trip. It was miserable. It was really hot. I would wake up at night and just go, like I was trying to catch my breath. It was so hot. And in my room, I couldn't open the windows. I didn't have screen. So, 98-degree weather, no screen, windows shut, no fan. Think about that. And so I had a little USB fan that I could connect to a power source, and I had 2 power packs. And I used it 24/7. I had that fan on pointed at me. Some people would kind of joke about it, but they were like, oh, can I see your fan for a minute? So it was a lifesaver. It really was. We ate local food, and I was so proud of my team. There was 2 teams that actually we split up. One went to one place and we went to another. And the team that I was with, they did not complain about the food. They ate it, and it was all African food. It was Liberian food. And we were served, in the morning we were served cut up pineapple or papaya. Sometimes we got boiled eggs and spaghetti noodles. They would give us noodles and we just eat them. They put some seasoning in there and that's it. And then for lunch we would usually have dark meat chicken in an onion curry slurry. I don't know how to explain it. And then we'd have white rice. Or we had 1 day or 2 days, we had fufu, which is the cassava beat to death and then steamed, and it's this gooey, weird. We didn't liked it, but anyway, we ate it, and my team, we treated ourselves to a beer at night. After a couple days, we just needed an escape. So there's not really a lot of sweets there. There's not anything to do. After hours, there's no electricity, so it really narrows down what you can do. So I downloaded at the hospital because they had Wi-Fi sometimes. I downloaded books. Usually I read every year, for entertainment's sake and knowledge base. I read only about 3 books a year. I'm a slow reader. I read 2.5 books while I was there, and the trip was only 2 weeks long, so I did a lot of reading because there was nothing else to do. And the hospital became a little more grateful as the time went on, but it was hard. It was hard. That's all I'll say about it. It was just hard. I have never seen, I've traveled a lot, people. I have never seen such poverty, and I've seen poverty. I've been to places where there's no electricity, no running water, but I've never seen it where water was sparse like this. I've always been to places where water was readily available. Excuse me, but it's not there. So a lot of their ailments that they came and told us about at the other clinic was headache, dizziness, faintness, weakness, all this. And all of those, constipation, were all connected to, they were drinking 1 glass of water a day, a lot of them, because they had to carry that water to the house in a bucket on their head. So we were telling them, you have to drink more water. I know it causes more work, but you have to drink more water. And they were physically dry. When you touch them, they were dry. They just didn't drink a lot of water. And we had to just really triage. There was people with really high blood pressure and other ailments, and you're just passing it by because you're like, I can't fix that. They can't afford the pills. Let's keep going. And then the surgeries were just wonderful. One of the testimonies that hit the most for me was a guy walks in and says, please come see my dad, please. And I said to him, I'm like, I'm sorry, we've already got the list of people we're going to have surgery. I can't help you. And he's like, no, please, please, let me just talk for a minute to the surgeon. I was like, okay. So I go get a surgeon, and this guy literally has a hernia going through his private part that is made it the size of a watermelon. And I'm not talking the little ones. I'm talking the big watermelons down to his knee. So basically this guy was eating, and his intestines, he was digesting, using his intestines in his private area. So can you imagine, he probably got constipated. He was in a lot of pain probably. And he said he'd been that way for 23 years. And he said, he grabbed my arm one time after the surgery, and he recognized me, and he goes, thank you so much for coming to help me. I wanted to tell you that 2 weeks ago, I went to church and I prayed desperately to God. I've been this way for 23 years. And I said, God, can you please find some way to heal me? And you came along. You came to Africa. You came to Liberia. You were an answer to prayer. God sent you. Thank you. So this guy, his life was handed back to him because of a simple hernia repair that took 45 minutes for us to do. And it just put that into perspective. This guy's life was handed back to him because we just added 45 minutes onto our day. So it was sobering. It was really sobering. So anyway, the surgeons afterwards, they offered everyone, the whole team, to put him up in a hotel for the last day, and open bar, open menu, put the tab on room 202. They said, whatever you want, order it, we'll pay for it. I was like, oh my, I've never had somebody do that for me before. So the other team refused. I don't know what that was about. I'm sure they had a great reason, but they had more of a relationship with their people that they work with. We were turn and burn. We were like grabbing people, cutting on them, healing them up, and sending them on their way. So it's not like we had these people for days and days and days. The other team, so it might have been a relational thing why they didn't take the doctors up on this. I have no idea. But it was a nice break. And so then it took another 24 hours to get back to the States. I almost didn't get on the flight. The Liberians that were in charge at the airport, not all, but most of them were very rude and power hungry. And they would say, well, maybe you'll get on the flight today, maybe not. Had one of my friends in tears saying, you probably won't get on the flight today. And acting like they had to buy a secondary ticket. And this was with United. And it was like a sister whatever flight that United was coupled with, and their name was on it. And I was like, this is the dirtiest thing I have ever seen. They had a guy drive up in a van 2 hours before the flight and drop off a printer to print off our tickets. They didn't even have a printer. And then there was like 175 people on the flight or something crazy like that. And they had one laptop that they were scanning in each person and each piece of luggage. They only had one stupid computer. And then you had Liberians lining up. Some of them, this isn't all of the country, but they'd come up and cut and say, I need to get in, sister. Can I get in front of you, sister? And so they didn't want to wait in the line of 100 people. And I'm like, get back. And there's two people. So if you see this and you're one of them, I'm sorry. But two people kept on saying, you really need to calm down. And they're friends and they probably are business class. That's why they're cutting. I'm like, no, they're not. And they were getting upset with me. But then I have traveled a lot. I can smell a conniver from a mile away. And so this one guy, I'm like, get back in line. Do not cut. And he finally went to the back of the line because he's like, this isn't working. And he was like, the girl in front of you is my girlfriend, basically what he was saying. And the girl's like, that isn't my boyfriend. So it was just constantly conniving. And you're just having to constantly say no because people are begging because we're white and they assume we're here to give stuff away. And we are. And so that was hard, but that's like everywhere else. It's not any different from any other impoverished country. It's kind of what happens. But I really got to hang out with some really beautiful people. My team was amazing. And I don't say that, off the cuff. Like, I've worked on many teams, military teams, missionary teams. I've been on a lot of teams in my life. I've directed a lot of teams. I think sometimes people will look at me because I'm carefree and silly and think, how much does she really know about this or that? But like, that's what I did for a living. I directed things. I don't anymore, but I have a long history of it. And so I can speak with a lot of authority in the area that this team was amazing. They were all some of them had never been to a different country in a third world nation like this, unless for like a cruise or something. And they didn't just stay afloat, they swam. They were like, oh, we're eating this chicken every day. So they drop off one meal at noon and then we eat it cold for dinner. We don't even have a microwave. And they're like, oh, okay. Oh, there's roaches in my room. Well, I'll have to get used to that. Oh, there isn't a lot of running water, so I'm rationing a bucket a day. Oh, okay. Like, they swam. They didn't flail. They didn't, freak out. They did well, and I'm proud of them. And the team dynamic was amazing too, because there was a couple bumps in the road. Definitely some power struggle with a few people when it comes to me, especially because I was in professional standards the low man on the totem pole. I had some issues with some disrespect or whatever a few times, but once it was addressed, it didn't happen again. And like, polite, I've never been around doctors that had any kind of like relationship with me. And I haven't been shown a whole bunch of kindness by doctors, I'll just be honest. And I saw nothing but kindness and professionalism from them. And I just was blessed to be a part of this team. Good people, just good people. Oh my gosh. So am I grateful I went? Yes. Am I going back? I hope not. I gotta be honest, I don't ever want to go back to Africa again. But if the Lord puts it on my heart that I'm supposed to go and impresses me that this is what I'm supposed to do, which God is big enough to talk to me. I have seen him set things up, and I'm like, I didn't put that together. That was a God thing. So if he wants me to go back, sure, but I don't intend to ever go back to Africa again. The people need desperately these surgeries, and the whole continent is so corrupt that the little guy suffers severely. But so I say, everybody take a turn, go to Africa. In their dollars, it cost me $1 million to get over there. And sometimes some of the people were a little ungrateful, and they didn't understand. They're like, oh, it must be easy in America. Everything's for free. I'm like, no, I don't know where you heard that, but it's not. And I would tell them, it cost me $1 million here to come here to help you. And they're like, you're kidding me. And one of the doctors, it was hilarious. This one guy was talking about how it must be amazing everyone has a car, because they drive cars for a living, but nobody owns a car per se. Unless that's a big deal. And he's like, oh, it must be nice to own your own car. And she goes, do you understand that a loaf of bread in America costs $5,000? And he's like, oh my Jesus. And not like Jesus in his slang, but like, he's like, oh, Heavenly Father, I can't believe she just said that. And he was like, $1,000. And we were like, yes, it's expensive to live there. And after that, he's like, oh, like basically grateful that we that we came. But that's where I'm at. I'm at the laundromat, and now I'm recovering from my trip. I'm definitely jet lagging a little bit. I often don't struggle too bad with jet lagging because I live in a constant state of influx fluctuation when it comes to my sleep, because I work nights. But anyway, I am doing good, but I can feel. We used to have in Youth with a Mission, the organization I work with, it was called debriefing. After you go on a trip like this, that you would kind of debrief to make sure that you don't become bitter at your own people and at your own nation for like, how dare you complain. I just came from a place that they really don't have anything, so you can kind of get a chip on your shoulder. You can also become embittered towards your nation or your people, or also feel ashamed at what you have. Like, there's a lot of emotions to kind of dig through when you go through something this traumatic, and this was traumatic. So I'm doing a lot of nothing right now. I'm just, laundry, brushing my teeth, taking hot showers, which I didn't have, no hot water, enjoying my camper. I'm going to pay some bills, do my taxes. I'm just taking it easy. I'm not even freaking out that I'm not on the schedule at work, because I need to decompress from this traumatic journey I just took. So anyway, that is the long and short end of my journey, if you were wondering. And I hope you're all having a good day. God bless you. And pray for Liberia. Pray for the people of Liberia. They are a people in need. So that's it. Bye.